I have to kick off today's deep dive with something that really gets under my skin. And I bet a lot of you listening feel the same way. It's the actual physical Medicare card.
Oh, yeah. The paper one.
Exactly. It's paper, it's flimsy. Every single time I pull it out, I feel like it's going to rip. And I just keep thinking, we have chips and everything now, digital security. Why don't we have proper plastic Medicare cards?
Yeah.
Like a credit card. It seems overdue.
Well, that exact frustration, that wish for something, more modern, more durable, that's actually the heart of the main scam we're diving into today.
Really?
Yeah, the sources we looked at make it crystal clear. This little everyday annoyance, this inconvenience, it's become like a golden opportunity for criminals. They're really cashing in on it.
Okay, that clicks because, funny you mention it, I actually got a call just the other day. It sounded pretty official, maybe a robocall, maybe not. And it was saying there's this mandatory replacement program happening right now, and I needed to confirm my 11-digit Medicare number, like immediately, to get my free new plastic card. With a security chip, they said.
The magic words, plastic card, chip.
Right. And sometimes I've heard they even throw in a sweetener, like a small gift card, or mention some extra benefits you'll get.
Okay, and that specific moment, the second you hear that, that's when you have to hang up the phone. Instantly.
Just hang up, don't even talk to them.
Don't engage. If there's only one single thing you take away from our whole conversation today, let it be this fundamental fact. Medicare will never, ever call you out of the blue asking for your Medicare number or your Social Security number. And they definitely won't charge you a fee for a new card.
They already have my info, right?
They already have everything they need. Anyone who calls you unsolicited, demanding that specific 11-digit MBI number, they're a scammer.
Yeah.
Full stop. End of story.
Okay. So let's really unpack this because it sounds like a huge threat. Our mission today, for everyone listening, is to give you the knowledge, the tools, to not just spot this new card scam.
Which is super common.
Right. But also to really understand the incredibly high stakes involved with medical identity theft. Because this isn't like losing a credit card number. This can actually put your health, your physical health, at risk.
Absolutely. It's way more damaging.
So we're going to arm you with a solid, actionable defense plan. We're pulling this straight from the source material, built around something called the 4Rs framework.
Record, review, report, remember. We'll break those down. We need to move pretty quick from, just recognizing how the scam works.
The mechanics of it.
Exactly. To understand the real-world consequences.
Yeah.
Which can be, frankly, life-threatening. And then, critically, give you that step-by-step guide. What do you do if you think your information has been compromised? How do you report it? How do you start to recover?
Okay, let's get into it. The mechanics first. All right. Let's dig into the core deception here, the plastic card lie. We touched on it, but why does it work so well? It really taps into that desire for convenience we all have, doesn't it? Why is promising a plastic chip card such a potent hook for these criminals?
Well, it just sounds right, doesn't it?
Oh.
It sounds modern. It sounds secure.
Yeah.
Necessary, even. It plays on how we're conditioned. We see chips on our bank cards, our credit cards. We associate that with security, with legitimacy.
Yeah. Right. It feels official.
But the absolute official word from CMS, that's the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, is crystal clear, unambiguous. Medicare only issues the standard red, white, and blue paper cards, period.
No plastic, no chips.
No plastic versions, no cards with microchips. They're not offering them now, they're not developing them. So if a caller tells you otherwise, that's it. They're reading from a script, a proven script designed to get your data.
And the sources we looked at, they confirm these callers often use these really generic, sort of harmless-sounding phrases like, "Hi, I'm calling from Medicare services." It sounds plausible.
Very plausible. But what makes it even trickier and harder to spot sometimes is when they already have some of your information.
Ah, okay. So they might know my name or birthday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You might think, oh, okay, maybe this is legit. They know my name. They know my date of birth. But scammers can buy or steal that basic information pretty easily.
From data breaches and things like that?
Yeah, data breaches, the dark web.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately quite cheap to get lists with names, addresses, maybe even the name of your doctor. They use that little bit of info to build false trust.
So they establish a little credibility.
Right. And then they pivot. They pivot to the real target, getting you, the beneficiary, to tell them your 11-digit Medicare ID, the MBI.
That MBI. The Medicare Beneficiary Identifier. That's the golden key they're after.
That's the code. Once they have that number, they can basically unlock the door to potentially billions of dollars in fraudulent claims. Billions.
Okay, so let's talk about these calls specifically. We need to really hammer down Medicare's official contact rules because people are getting so many unsolicited calls. When will Medicare actually call someone? What are the legitimate reasons?
This is such a crucial piece of information for you to have. It's like your shield. The rules are actually very, very restrictive. Medicare will generally only initiate a call to you in really limited situations, and usually it's only if you contacted them first.
Okay, so if I call them and ask for a callback?
Exactly. If you, the beneficiary, called 1-800-MEDICARE and maybe scheduled a specific phone appointment with a representative for a follow-up. Or the other main reason is if you proactively reported potential fraud and they're calling you back specifically about that case you reported.
But just out of the blue, no prior contact.
If they're calling you totally out of the blue, no prior interaction initiated by you. It's not Medicare, period.
Got it. Now, I know another tactic scammers use is fear. They call and threaten you, right? Like, your coverage will be canceled, or you'll lose Part B if you don't confirm your details right now. Does Medicare ever operate like that? Communicate serious issues with threats over the phone?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That is classic scammer behavior. High-pressure tactics, fear. Medicare will not call you up with sudden threats about canceling your coverage.
How does that work then if there's a real issue, like unpaid premiums?
Any serious administrative action, like potentially canceling coverage because premiums haven't been paid, that's a long, drawn-out bureaucratic process. It involves multiple formal bills, delinquency notices, and all of that communication comes exclusively and repeatedly through the U.S. mail, official mail.
Not a sudden, scary phone call.
Never a phone call demanding immediate action or making threats. That kind of call is purely designed to make you panic, to scare you into giving up information before you have a chance to think clearly.
Okay, so if they're calling unsolicited, red flag. If they're threatening you, huge flashing red light, fraud.
Solid iron wall of fraud, as you said. Absolutely.
Let's step back for a second and give a bit of historical context, because it helps understand why this MBI number is so valuable and why Medicare changed the number system in the first place.
Yeah, it's a really important piece of the puzzle. Before 2020, it wasn't an MBI. Your Medicare ID number was simply your Social Security number.
Wow. Okay, that seems incredibly risky.
It was incredibly risky. It was an identity theft goldmine. If someone got your Medicare card, they didn't just have access to your health benefits, they had your SSN. They could potentially take over your entire financial identity. Open credit cards, loans, everything.
So Congress stepped in.
Yeah, recognizing this massive systemic vulnerability, Congress mandated a change. They required CMS to transition away from using the SSN and move to the new MBI. As the 11-character randomly assigned alphanumeric identifier you have now. It contains both letters and numbers, and it's not tied to your SSN at all.
That does sound like a huge security upgrade. And it was, right? Everyone should have gotten those new cards, the red, white, and blue ones with the MBI between 2018 and 2019.
Correct. The rollout finished, and those old cards with the SSNs on them officially expired in January 2020.
Okay, so major security improvement, problem solved. Or how quickly did the criminals adapt to this new system?
Oh, instantly. Like zero lag time. The sources we reviewed really emphasized this point. This big institutional security change, while definitely a positive step, it didn't stop the crime.
They just changed tactics.
They just pivoted.
I mean, yeah.
Immediately. Organized crime rings simply shifted their focus. They stopped trying to fish primarily for the SSN and just doubled down, intensified their efforts to get the new MBI instead, using the exact same tools of deception we're talking about, especially that fake new plastic card offer.
So they knew the MBI was the new key.
They recognized that the MBI, even though it's safer than using an SSN, is still the single essential access code. It's the key to unlocking government-funded healthcare benefits. And that's where the money is.
Okay, I want to shift gears now. And this is where the conversation really needs to get serious. Because when we talk about medical identity theft, we are way beyond the hassle of a stolen credit card. This is a type of crime that can directly threaten your health, your safety, your financial stability. Can you just define medical identity theft simply for us?
Yeah, at its core, it's when someone, a criminal, maybe a dishonest healthcare provider, anyone really uses your personal health information, as specifically that Medicare ID, your MBI, without you knowing about it or agreeing to it.
And what do they do with it?
They use it to get medical services themselves or prescription drugs.
Mm.
Or, very commonly, they just use it to file completely fake claims with Medicare to get money paid out to them. They're basically stealing your healthcare benefits right out from under you.
And the scale of this, it's not small potatoes, is it? When we look at the numbers, the financial losses are just staggering.
They are truly enormous. It's hard to get an exact figure, obviously, because fraud is hidden. But the estimates suggest that fraud, waste, abuse, and errors cost the Medicare program somewhere around $60 billion, with a B, nationally, every single year.
$60 billion a year.
No.
It's hard to even comprehend.
It's a mind-boggling amount of public money just flowing into the hands of criminals. And it really underscores why this is such a big business, why these criminal rings invest so much in things like sophisticated call centers and buying stolen data lists. There's huge profit in it.
That $60 billion figure, it's so vast it almost feels like abstract.
Yeah.
Can you bring it down to earth for us? Give an example from the sources, maybe, of a really specific consequence, something that shows the real harm to the victim, beyond just the taxpayer cost.
Absolutely. And you're right, the most damaging consequences often aren't directly about the money lost. They're about your access to care when you genuinely need it and about your safety as a patient.
Let's focus on the first big one. Maxed out benefits.
Okay, maxed out benefits. What does that mean? Scammers often target really high-value items. Things like expensive, durable medical equipment, things specialized wheelchairs, power scooters, certain types of braces, or specific diagnostic tests that Medicare might only cover once in a lifetime or once every few years.
Like a lifetime limit on a specific piece of equipment.
Exactly. So imagine a scammer uses your stolen MBI to fraudulently bill Medicare for, say, that one-time super expensive custom knee brace. They get the money. Now, fast forward a year. You legitimately injure your knee. Your doctor says you need that exact brace. You go to get it.
And Medicare says no.
Precisely. The system flags it. Benefit already paid. Lifetime limit reached. You're denied the equipment you desperately need because a criminal already claimed it in your name.
And then you're stuck fighting to prove it was fraud.
You're stuck in a bureaucratic nightmare. Trying to prove the original claim was fraudulent, getting it reversed, getting your benefit reinstated. It takes ages, months, sometimes longer. You need police reports, detailed statements, endless phone calls. And all the while, you're potentially suffering without the medical equipment you need. That's a direct physical consequence of the identity theft.
That is truly frightening. But you mentioned a second consequence that sounds even more dangerous: tainted medical records.
Yeah, this one is potentially even more insidious. This is the scenario that can genuinely put your life at risk. If a thief uses your identity, your MBI, to get actual medical treatment or tests or prescriptions,
That goes into my official medical file.
it gets logged permanently into your electronic health record. Now picture this. You're in an accident, you're brought into the ER, maybe you're unconscious. The doctor pulls up your medical history to make urgent treatment decisions.
And they see the scammer's information mixed with mine.
Exactly. They might see a record of a critical drug allergy that you don't actually have, but the thief reported. Or a diagnosis for a serious condition you don't have. Or maybe details about a complex surgery the scammer had under your name.
Oh my God.
The ER doctor, acting in good faith, relies on that incorrect, fraudulent data. They might avoid giving you a life-saving drug because your record falsely says you're allergic. Or they might make treatment decisions based on a fake pre-existing condition. It completely compromises your safety in an emergency.
So the theft plants like a landmine in your own health records. Wow. And the sources also mention more direct financial fallout and issues with getting care later.
Yes, absolutely. First,
Yeah.
the financial side, those fraudulent bills. If they aren't caught and properly dealt with, they can eventually get turned over to debt collectors. Suddenly you're getting calls and letters demanding payment for services you never received. And that can absolutely wreck your credit report.
And denied insurance.
That's the other sneaky part. Say the scammer used your ID to get treatment for condition X. Now, condition X is wrongly listed in your medical history as a pre-existing condition. Later, you apply for life insurance or maybe long-term care insurance. The insurer checks your records, sees that false pre-existing condition.
And denies you coverage. Or charges you way more.
Exactly, based on completely false information planted by a thief.
The sources also gave some really concrete examples of things people might actually receive at home that are dead giveaways their identity's been stolen.
Right, the physical evidence showing up on your doorstep. This is a big one. Beneficiaries suddenly start getting boxes delivered, boxes they never ordered.
Like what?
Sometimes it's dozens and dozens of COVID-19 test kits, or large quantities of durable medical equipment. Knee braces, back braces, neck collars, diabetic testing supplies, catheters, things they never asked for, maybe for conditions they don't even have.
So if unexplained medical supplies arrive, that's a huge warning sign.
Massive warning sign. It's tangible proof that someone is using your MBI for what's called phantom billing for things never actually provided to you.
And you mentioned earlier, let's just revisit it because it's so awful. The example of people being enrolled in hospice care without their knowledge.
Yeah, that is a particularly cruel and devastating form of fraud. Criminal organizations literally enroll Medicare beneficiaries into hospice care, often targeting people who are not terminally ill at all, just so they can bill Medicare for expensive hospice services, which might include visits, medications, equipment that are often never even delivered.
And the victim has no idea.
Usually, no idea, until the horror unfolds. They go to the regular doctor for their ongoing active treatment. Maybe it's chemotherapy for cancer or dialysis for kidney failure, and the claims for that legitimate necessary treatments get denied.
Why? Because Medicare thinks they're in hospice.
Exactly. Medicare rules generally don't allow payment for curative treatments once a patient is officially enrolled in hospice care. So even though the hospice enrollment was totally fraudulent and the patient didn't know, it blocks payment for the real treatments they need to stay alive or manage their condition. It's denying people life-extending care based purely on criminal activity. Truly heartbreaking.
Okay, so we've thoroughly covered that initial new card scam they used to get your MBI. But once the criminals have that number, they don't just stop there. They unleash a whole range of other, sometimes more subtle, fraudulent billing schemes. And I think it's really important to stress again why these often go unnoticed for so long.
You're right. It's because often if Medicare and maybe your supplemental plan cover the full cost of a service, you, the beneficiary, might never actually see a bill for it.
Right, no out-of-pocket cost means no paper trail coming directly to me immediately.
Precisely. The system's designed for convenience, which is good, but it creates this blind spot. The fraud can happen, the claims get paid, and you might have no clue until months later when that quarterly Medicare summary notice arrives in the mail. Or, worse, until you try to use a benefit and find out it's already been used up.
So let's break down some of the main types of fraudulent billing that happen once they have the number, starting with maybe the most basic one, phantom billing.
Yeah, phantom billing is pretty much straightforward theft. It's submitting bills to Medicare for services or drugs or medical equipment that were never actually provided or delivered to the patient at all.
So this is where those boxes of unordered knee braces come from.
Exactly. That's phantom billing in action. The scammer gets reimbursed by Medicare for, say, a back brace that only exists as a line item on a claim form they submitted using your stolen MBI. It was never shipped, or maybe shipped to a fake address or shipped to you, but you never ordered it.
And they can do this at scale, right?
Oh, absolutely. Often, these criminal operations will get hold of lists of stolen patient information, MBIs, names, dates of birth, and then just systematically bill Medicare for thousands of beneficiaries all at once, all for the same fake service or non-existent piece of equipment.
Okay, that's phantom billing. Now let's get into the slightly more technical stuff that might involve actual providers, sometimes complicit, sometimes maybe unaware. Things like double billing and upcoding. People might have heard these terms, but what do they mean specifically in Medicare fraud?
Okay, so double billing is pretty much what it sounds like. It's billing Medicare more than once for the exact same service. Or another variation is billing Medicare once, getting paid, and then also sending a bill directly to the beneficiary for that same service, trying to get paid twice.
Just trying to collect two payments when only one is actually owed.
Simple as that. Now, upcoding is a bit different. It's more about inflating the value of a service that was actually provided. It often involves manipulating specific billing codes.
You mean those CPT codes the sources mentioned? Procedural codes.
Exactly. CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. These are standardized codes that doctors and hospitals use to tell Medicare exactly what service they provided. Each code has a specific reimbursement rate attached to it.
So how does upcoding work with those?
Okay, let's say you go to your doctor for a really quick, maybe 10-minute follow-up visit just to check on something simple. That visit corresponds to a specific CPT code with a relatively low payment rate. But the provider or their billing department, maybe fraudulently, submits the claim to Medicare using the CPT code for a much more complex, time-consuming initial patient consultation, a code that pays significantly more.
So the service happened, but they billed for a much more expensive version of it.
Precisely. They upcoded the service to inflate the reimbursement they receive from Medicare. It's a more subtle form of theft than phantom billing, but it's incredibly common and adds up to huge amounts of money.
And then there's something called unbundling or fragmentation. This sounds even more complex, like really gaming the coding system.
It is a bit more sophisticated, yeah. Unbundling is when a provider breaks down a procedure or service that should really be billed under one single comprehensive CPT code into multiple separate little pieces, and then bills for each piece individually.
Can you get an example?
Sure. Let's say you have a minor surgical procedure. Normally, that might be covered by one global CPT code that includes the initial consultation, the surgery itself, maybe some basic follow-up care like removing stitches. A legitimate provider bills that one code.
But in a bundler.
A fraudulent provider engaging in unbundling might bill separately for the initial consult, then bill separately for the anesthesia, then bill for the actual incision, then bill for the sutures, then bill for applying the dressing, then bill for the follow-up visit. They take what should be one package deal and fragment it into, say, 5 or 10 separate billable services.
To maximize the total payout for Medicare?
Exactly. By billing for all the components separately, they dramatically inflate the total reimbursement compared to using the single, appropriate comprehensive code. It's deliberately making the billing more complex to steal more money.
Okay, so beyond these general billing schemes, the sources also highlighted some specific types of products or services that are really hot targets for fraud right now, often because they're expensive and maybe easier to justify fraudulently on paper.
Yeah, criminals definitely focus on high-margin items where they can make a big score quickly. One huge area mentioned repeatedly is genetic testing fraud.
Genetic testing, how does that work as a scam?
Well, scammers often set up booths at places like senior centers, health fairs, maybe even church events. They lure beneficiaries over with offers of free health screenings or sometimes even small cash payments or gift cards.
Okay, sounds tempting.
Right. And then they'll do a quick, painless cheek swab. They'll claim this swab is for important genetic testing, maybe to check your risk for cancer or Alzheimer's or heart disease. Sounds legitimate? Sounds proactive for your health.
But it's not.
Often, no. They get your Medicare information when you sign up for the free screening. Then they take that cheek swab and bill Medicare for thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, for extensive, complex, and often medically unnecessary genetic tests. Sometimes the tests are never even run, sometimes the results are meaningless or never even sent back to you or your doctor.
The whole point is just to bill Medicare for the expensive test using the stolen MBI.
Exactly. Collect the big payment from Medicare. That's the entire goal.
And the other really big-ticket item fraud mentioned was skin substitutes. The scale of this one sounded enormous.
It truly is. We're talking about potentially $1 billion fraud problem just with skin substitutes. These are advanced wound care products, often used for diabetic ulcers or other chronic wounds. They can be very expensive.
So how are they committing fraud with these?
The fraud often involves billing for medically impossible quantities of these products. Billing for applying, say, dozens of square centimeters of skin substitute to a tiny wound week after week. Or billing for using these very expensive treatments on wounds that don't medically require them at all.
And how do they get these claims approved?
This is where it gets really sophisticated. Often these schemes involve criminal networks that have somehow stolen or illegally obtained the legitimate provider numbers, the NPI numbers, of real doctors or podiatrists, sometimes without the doctors even knowing. They use these stolen provider credentials to submit the fraudulent claims, making them look legitimate when Medicare processes them.
Wow. Using a real doctor's identity to mask the crime?
It adds a layer of deception that makes it harder to detect initially.
Finally, we absolutely have to touch on prescription and drug fraud. This is where the stolen Medicare number is used not just for billing, but to actually get pharmaceuticals.
Right, and this is incredibly serious because it can potentially implicate the victim in criminal activity if their identity is used to obtain controlled substances. One major type is prescription forgery and drug diversion. Meaning the criminal uses the stolen Medicare number and patient identity to get prescriptions filled, often for high-value or controlled substances like opioids or stimulants. They might forge a prescription or work with a crooked pharmacist. They get the drugs using your insurance coverage.
And what did they do with the drugs?
Sometimes it's for their own personal use or addiction. Very often, though, it's for illegal resale on the black market. They're diverting legal drugs into the illegal street market, funded by Medicare.
And there was also doctor shopping mentioned.
Yes, that's another tactic. Using the victim's stolen identity and Medicare coverage, the criminal goes to multiple different doctors or clinics, complaining of symptoms to get prescriptions for the same drug again, often controlled substances. Each doctor is unaware that the patient has already received the same medication from someone else.
So they accumulate large quantities of drugs using someone else's insurance.
Exactly. And the danger for the victim here is that their official prescription record, linked to their MBI, might start showing that they are filling dangerously high levels of controlled substances. This could lead to them being red flagged by pharmacies or law enforcement, or even being denied legitimate pain medication later on if they genuinely need it because their record looks like that of an abuser.
Okay, we've laid out just how serious and frankly how varied these Medicare scams are. It can feel overwhelming. But now let's shift from outlining the threat to focusing on the proactive defense. What can you do? And the sources gave us this really great, easy to remember framework, the 4 R's.
That's right. Record, review, report, and remember. It's a simple way to organize your defenses.
Let's tackle them one by one. We'll start with perhaps the most fundamental shield. Remember. What do people need to remember?
Remember is all about guarding your information. First and foremost, you have got to treat your Medicare card, and especially that 11-digit MBI number, like it's a high-limit credit card. Or even more carefully, really. So don't just flash it around. Absolutely not. Only give your Medicare number, or for that matter, your Social Security number, to people who absolutely need it and who you know should have it. That means your doctor's office, the hospital billing department, your legitimate supplemental insurance carriers like your Medigap plan or your Part D drug plan provider.
And definitely not to some random person who calls you on the phone.
Definitely not to someone who calls you out of the blue asking for it. Remember, they called you. You don't know who they really are.
What about those offers we mentioned? The free gifts, the free screenings at health fairs?
That falls under remember, too. Remember to be deeply skeptical. Never, ever accept offers of money, gifts, especially anything worth more than maybe $15. That's often a guideline or special deals in exchange for supposedly free medical care or equipment where they need your Medicare number to verify eligibility.
That's the oldest trick in the book, isn't it?
It really is. The person offering the gift isn't interested in your health. They want your MBI. That's the price of the free item, giving them access to potentially bill Medicare for thousands of dollars in fraudulent claims later. The gift is just their cost of doing business, the transaction fee for stealing your identity.
Okay, and practically speaking, we talked about the flimsy paper card. What's the official advice on carrying it around?
The best practice, the official recommendation, is actually to keep your original Medicare card safely at home. Store it securely like you would your birth certificate or Social Security card.
Don't carry it in your wallet every day.
No. Only take the actual card with you when you have a scheduled medical appointment where you know you'll need it for check-in or billing.
But what if there's an emergency? Don't I need it for identification?
That's a valid concern. The suggestion from some safety groups is this. If you want something in your wallet for emergencies, make a high-quality photocopy of your Medicare card. But, and this is crucial, before you put the copy in your wallet, take a thick black permanent marker and completely black out, obliterate the 11-digit Medicare number, MBI itself.
So the copy shows your name, maybe your effective dates for Part A and B, proving you have coverage, but not the actual number.
Exactly. It can serve as proof of coverage and basic ID in an emergency without exposing that critical access number if your wallet is lost or stolen.
Okay, good tip. Let's move to the second OR record. This sounds like being organized.
It's all about creating your own defense log, your personal paper trail. You need to keep track of your health care. The recommendation is to maintain a calendar. Could be a paper calendar, could be a digital one specifically for your health care.
Carol, what goes in it?
Log every single doctor's visit. Every test you have, blood work, x-rays, every therapy session, any medical equipment or supplies you receive. Note the date, the time if you can, the name of the doctor or facility, and maybe a quick note about what the service was for.
And save paperwork, too.
Yes. Save all your receipts, any statements you get directly from your providers, appointment confirmation slips. This personal log and your saved documents become your reference point, your truth source.
Which leads perfectly into the third and maybe most active R review. This is where you become your own claims detective, right?
This is where you are the first line of defense. Absolute diligence is key here. You must review the statements you receive from Medicare or your plan.
What are those statements called again?
If you have original Medicare, Part A and Part B directly from the government, you'll get a Medicare Summary Notice, or MSN. These usually come in the mail every 3 months. If you have a private plan, like a Medicare Advantage plan, Part C, or a standalone Part D drug plan, you'll get an explanation of benefits, or EOB, usually after you access services.
And what am I looking for when I review these?
You're looking for anything that seems off, anything suspicious. The most obvious things are charges for doctor visits you know you didn't make, bills for services, tests, or procedures you definitely didn't receive, duplicate charges being billed twice for the same exact service or item, services listed that were supposedly delivered on a date when you know you were somewhere else, maybe even out of town.
It sounds like comparing it against that record log we just talked about is essential.
Absolutely. That's why you keep the log. You get your MSN or UOB, you sit down with your calendar and receipts, and you compare. Does this charge match a visit I actually made? Does this date line up? Is this the right doctor?
Now, a really important point came up in the sources. We don't necessarily have to wait 3 months for that paper MSN anymore, right? There's a faster way for original Medicare folks.
Yes, this is a huge improvement and a critical tool. If you have original Medicare, the single best step you can take today is to go to medicare.gov and set up your secure online Medicare account.
MyMedicare.gov.
That's the one, mymedicare.gov. Once you have an account, you can log in anytime and see your Medicare claims, usually as soon as they're processed by Medicare. Often within just a few weeks of your doctor visit or service, long before that quarterly paper MSN even gets printed.
So you can spot potential fraud much, much faster.
And massively faster. It gives you a huge advantage in catching suspicious activity early and stopping it before more damage is done. I can't recommend setting up that online account highly enough.
Okay, so let's say I'm reviewing my MSN online, or the paper one, and I spot something weird. Maybe it's a charge from a doctor I don't recognize, or a service listed that I'm pretty sure I didn't get. What's the very first thing I should do? Should I immediately call the fraud hotline?
Actually, no. The sources are very clear on this, and it's important. Before you assume it's fraud and escalate it, your first step should always be to call the provider's office directly.
The doctor or clinic listed on the statement.
Yes, but be careful. Don't necessarily call a phone number listed on the suspicious bill itself if you think the bill might be fake. Look up the provider's main, published phone number online or from your own records and call that number.
Why call them first?
Because it's entirely possible, even probable sometimes, that the issue is just a simple, honest mistake, a clerical error. Maybe the billing staff typed in the wrong CPT code or transposed a number, or accidentally billed you instead of another patient with a similar name. These things happen.
So check for an error before crying fraud.
Exactly. By calling the provider's office first, you give them a chance to check their records, explain the charge, or correct the error if one was made. You might get it resolved quickly and easily right then and there, without needing to trigger a whole federal fraud investigation, which takes time and resources. If they can't explain it, or it still seems wrong, then you escalate.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, let's quickly list those 5 key signs the sources mentioned that are strong indicators your medical identity has been stolen. These are like the flashing warning lights that tell you your MBI is likely compromised and being misused right now.
Right, these are the things to watch out for that screen problem. 1, you receive a data breach notification. If you get a letter or email from a hospital, your insurance company, a doctor's office, or even a pharmacy saying that your personal health information was potentially exposed in a security breach, take that very seriously. Your MBI could be out there. 2, you see an item on your MSN or EOB that you absolutely know is wrong. Not just maybe wrong, but definitively wrong. A surgery you didn't have, a wheelchair you didn't get, a doctor you've never met. 3, you receive an official notice saying you've reached a benefit limit unexpectedly. For example, Medicare sends you a letter saying they can't approve payment for a specific medical device because their records show you already received your lifetime supply of it, but you know you haven't. 4, you get a bill or a call from a debt collector about a medical debt you don't recognize. This often happens because the identity thief received services using your MBI, but didn't pay the required copay or deductible, so the unpaid balance eventually goes to collections under your name. 5, you notice weird discrepancies during check-in at a hospital or clinic. Maybe they ask you to confirm an address you haven't lived at for years. Or worse, the intake person asks a question based on false information in your file, like, "So, Mrs. Smith, how are you feeling after your gallbladder surgery last month?" when you've never had gallbladder surgery in your life. That means someone else's medical history is now dangerously mixed up with yours.
Okay, so let's say the worst has happened. A listener has done their due diligence, they've reviewed their MSN, they called the provider, and they've confirmed there's a charge that is definitely fraudulent. Or maybe even worse, they realize, oh no, I fell for that scam call, I gave them my Medicare number. What is the immediate critical action plan? What do they do right now?
Okay, deep breath first, but then act fast. If you know you were tricked into giving out your MBI or SSN, or if you've confirmed actual fraud on your statements, the very first call you need to make is to 1-800-MEDICARE, 1-800-633-4227, immediately.
Why is that the first call?
Because they are the official administrators of the Medicare program. You need to alert them right away that your number may be compromised. They can put a flag on your account, note the potential fraud, and guide you on the next steps. The clock is ticking. The longer a compromised number is out there, the more fraudulent billing can potentially occur. So that call is absolutely step one.
Okay, call 1-800-MEDICARE first. Now, the logical next thought is, can I get a new Medicare number? Is that possible? Is it easy?
It is possible, yes. And if your number has been actively used for fraud, requesting a new MBI is highly recommended to stop further damage under that old number. You'll need to explain the situation to the Medicare representative when you call.
Does getting a new number stop the fraud instantly?
Unfortunately, not always overnight. And you need to be prepared for the logistical hassle involved. When Medicare issues you a new MBI, your old number might actually remain active in their system for several months.
Why? That seems counterintuitive.
It's mainly for bureaucratic reasons, to allow legitimate claims that were already in the pipeline for services you did receive before the fraud was discovered, to finish processing and get paid correctly under the old number without causing disruption to your doctors or hospitals.
So even after I report the fraud and request a new number, those scam packages might keep showing up for a while.
Exactly. Those fraudulent deliveries, the unwanted test kits, the boxes of braces, they might continue to arrive for a period even after you've reported it, because they were likely billed under the old compromised number before it was fully deactivated for new claims.
What should I do with those packages?
The best advice is simply to refuse delivery. Don't accept the package from the mail carrier or delivery driver. Tell them you didn't order it and you're refusing it. Let them return it to the sender. Don't just keep it or throw it away.
Okay, refuse delivery. And what about my other insurance? If I get a new MBI, do I need to tell my Medigap plan or my Part D plan?
Yes, absolutely critical point. If Medicare issues you a brand new MBI, it is entirely your responsibility to inform all of your other insurance carriers about the new number. You have to contact your supplemental Medigap plan provider, your Part D prescription drug plan provider, and if you have one, your private Medicare Advantage plan carrier. Give them all your new MBI so they can update their records.
So getting a new number involves some legwork on my part to update everyone.
It does. It's a significant administrative task, for sure, but it's absolutely necessary to ensure your ongoing coverage works correctly and to fully secure your identity going forward.
Okay, so we've called 1-800-MEDICARE. We've potentially requested a new number. Now let's talk about formally reporting the suspected fraud, error, or abuse. This is the final R report. Where do people go? Who do they tell?
There are a few key places to report, and it's good to know what each one does. We already mentioned starting with 1-800-MEDICARE. They take the initial report and can flag your number.
Who else?
Second, for potentially serious or criminal fraud, you should report it to the HHS Office of Inspector General, or OIG. This is the main federal agency that investigates healthcare fraud, waste, and abuse. They have a dedicated fraud hotline.
What's that number?
The OIG hotline is 1-800-HHS-TIPS. That's 1-800-447-8477. Or you can actually file a detailed complaint securely online through their website, which is tips.oig.hhs.gov. If the fraud seems widespread, involves large dollar amounts, or is clearly criminal, the OIG are the ones who will likely investigate and potentially prosecute.
Okay, OIG for the big stuff. Is there more local help available too?
Yes, and this is a fantastic resource that people should definitely know about. Your local Senior Medicare Patrol, or SMP program.
SMP, what do they do?
SMPs are basically local, community-based programs funded by the federal government, specifically designed to help Medicare beneficiaries prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud. They have trained counselors, often volunteers, who can literally sit down with you, help you understand your Medicare statements, those MSNs and EOBs, figure out if your number might be compromised, and walk you through the process of filing reports with Medicare and the OIG if needed. They're like fraud-fighting coaches right in your community.
That sounds incredibly helpful. How do you find your local SMP?
You can find your local SMP program by using the online SMP locator tool at sensmpresource.org. Or you can call their national hotline number, which is 1-877-808-2468, and they can connect you to the program in your state or area. I highly recommend reaching out to them if you suspect anything.
Great resource. No, what about if the fraud specifically involves my prescription drug plan, like that doctor shopping or forged prescription stuff?
Good question. For issues specifically related to Medicare Advantage plans or Medicare Part D drug plans, especially involving prescription drugs, there's another specialized entity you should contact. It's called the Investigations Medicare Drug Integrity Contractor, often shortened to IMEDIC.
iMedic. Do they have a hotline?
They do. Their number is 1-877-77-SAFER-X. That's 1-877-772-3379. They focus specifically on investigating fraud and abuse related to the pharmacy benefit, drug diversion schemes, and issues within those private Medicare plans.
Okay, so several places to report depending on the situation. Before someone calls any of these hotlines, 1-800-MEDICARE, OIG, SMP, iMedic, what information should they try to have ready to make their report as effective as possible? Specificity helps, right?
Absolutely. Vague reports are hard to investigate. To give the investigators the best chance of understanding the situation and taking action, you should try to gather as much detail as you can beforehand. Be prepared to provide your own Medicare number, the one on your card, whether it's the old one or a new one if issued, the exact name and any other identifying details you have, like address or phone number if you know it, of the provider, supplier, or company you suspect of committing the fraud, a clear description of the suspicious item, service, or activity, what was billed, what did you receive that you didn't order, what seemed wrong, the date or approximate date range when the service was supposedly provided or the suspicious activity occurred, and crucially, the date the item appeared on your Medicare Summary Notice, MSN, or Explanation of Benefits, EOB. Having that statement date helps them pinpoint the claim in their system.
So gather your facts, have your MSNEO be handy, and know the provider's name and the dates.
Exactly. The more specific, documented information you can provide, the stronger your report will be, and the better the chance that the investigators can track down the source of the fraud and stop it. Hashtags Jack, outro, and provocative thought.
Wow. This has been an incredibly important and I think really necessary deep dive today. We've gone all the way from recognizing that seemingly innocent but actually very dangerous fake offer of a new plastic Medicare card.
That very tempting offer.
Right. All the way through understanding the truly severe, potentially life-altering risks involved. Things like having your benefits maxed out by a thief, or the terrifying prospect of having your permanent medical record corrupted with false information.
Then hopefully we've armed people with that core defense strategy. It really boils down to two main things, doesn't it?
What are they?
First, never, ever, under any circumstances, give out your Medicare number if someone calls you unexpectedly asking for it. Just hang up. And second, you have to be diligent. You have to rigorously review every single piece of mail, every statement, every MSN, every EOB that you get from Medicare or your health plan. You are the final checkpoint. You are the gatekeeper for your own benefits.
It really is striking when you think about the history we discussed. Medicare undertook this massive, complex, multi-year national effort to transition away from using the Social Security number specifically to make the system more secure, to stop identity thieves.
It was a huge undertaking, replacing every single beneficiary's card with a new randomized MBI, a major security initiative.
And what was the result? Did it stop the criminals?
Not really. As we saw, organized crime rings didn't even blink. They adapted almost instantly. They immediately figured out a new angle exploiting that common frustration with the paper card and used it as the perfect hook to start harvesting the new, supposedly more secure MBI.
It just goes to show, doesn't it, that even big institutional security upgrades, technological fixes, they aren't a magic wand. They aren't foolproof.
Not at all. It proves that, at the end of the day, the ultimate defense doesn't lie in the technology or the system itself. It rests squarely on the individual, on the vigilance, the awareness, and maybe most importantly, the skepticism of you, the beneficiary.
And that really leads us right into our final provocative thought for you, our listeners, to mull over after this conversation. If highly organized, adaptable criminals can always find a way to pivot, to get around even major institutional security changes almost immediately, then how crucial is it that we fundamentally shift how we think about our own personal data?
Especially something as sensitive as our Medicare ID.
Exactly. Maybe we need to stop viewing it as just some administrative number, a casual detail we can share over the phone if someone sounds official enough. Maybe we need to start treating every single unexpected request for that number not just as a potential threat to our finances, but as a potential direct threat to our physical health and our future well-being itself.
Your skepticism isn't paranoia. It's your best defense mechanism in today's world.
Be vigilant, be skeptical, remember those 4 R's: record, review, report, remember. Be your own best advocate in the healthcare system.
Well said.
Until next time, keep digging deeper.